Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lindy Ruano, and I am with Easter Seals of Southern California and the Disability Tribe Initiative. Today's live webinar, Expanding the Vision for Employment Services, will be offering Spanish and ASL interpretation. Next slide, please. Para las personas que necesitan o prefieren el español, usted puede acceder a este servicio haciendo clic en el icono con el globo blanco en la parte baja de su pantalla, que dice Interpretation. Haga clic en Spanish y escuchará la voz de Mark Gutiérrez traduciendo. En el canal de español, puede silenciar a los presentadores de habla inglés seleccionando Mute Original Audio. If you prefer to listen in English, you don't have to select English. Simply stay on original audio. Our ASL interpreter is Destiny Bradford. She has been spotlighted so she can be seen throughout the entire presentation. Depending on your device, this may mean that sometimes you will not see the presenters. We do apologize for the inconvenience, but we want to make sure that this live waiting and recording can be accessible to everyone. This presentation will have closed captioning, which you can access by using the button at the bottom of the screen. Next slide, please. A few things to note about Zoom before we get started. This meeting is being recorded to allow us to refer to today's discussion and input that we may receive. You can hear and see us, but we cannot hear and see you. All attendees' cameras and microphones have been automatically turned off. Chat is not activated for attendees. However, presenters will be sharing some information through the chat during the webinar. If you would like to ask a question or provide a comment, please use the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen. As a reminder, we ask to please indicate who your question or comment is for. We do have staff monitoring and responding as necessary. Some questions will be answered in real time, or we may ask you for your email address so we can follow up after the webinar. Si necesita hacer una pregunta o comentarios en español, lo puede hacer utilizando la caja que dice Q&A que tenemos en la parte de abajo y tenemos personal bilingüe asistiéndonos. Finally, at the end of today's webinar, we will be asking you to participate in our post-event survey. Once the webinar is over, a new window will pop open with the survey. Please provide your feedback so we can improve on future events. Next slide, please. Now, it is my pleasure to introduce Executive Director at California Disability Services Association, Barry Giardini, and Director of Person-Centered Culture and Practices at Easter Seals, Southern California, Amber Carey Navarrete. Amber, Barry?
Thank you so much, Lindy, and good afternoon, everyone. We are absolutely delighted to have you here to learn a little bit more about employment services. Today's webinar is on expanding the vision for employment services. And this is a topic of real importance to our community, as we all know, especially in light of the challenges that were brought about during the pandemic and other policy changes. You know, our broad stakeholder community has worked with DDS in partnership, and we've been focused on finding solutions to increase employment pathways for individuals with IDD and ensure that everyone who wants to work will have that option in the future going forward. Today's presenters have a wealth of experience, they're passionate, they're committed to this, and they are here to support employment outcomes for the IDD community. We hope that you enjoy today's presentations, and we look forward to learning with you all today. Now I'd like to pass it over to my colleague, Amber, to walk you through the formal agenda, please.
Thank you so much, Barry. Next slide, please. Yeah, great. So we all know that finding the right job is never easy, and this is very often more so the case for the disabled community. Luckily, the Department of Developmental Services and service providers across the state have been and are continuing to address the chronic unemployment this community experiences. We are fortunate today to have speakers here to share strategies and opportunities leading the way towards more successful employment outcomes. Over the course of today's webinar, we will hear updates to state policies on employment, how to grow internships into employment opportunities, more strategies, but this time specific to employing people with high support needs, how to create innovative partnerships with employers, and finally, hearing directly from a job seeker as they share their experience in finding just that right job. Next slide.
Yeah, and thanks, Amber. And today we're going to start out with those state policy updates on employment, and we are delighted to be joined by some representatives from the department. Today's presenter is Ernie Cruz, the Deputy Director of the Community Services Division at DDS, and he will also be supported in the Q&A by a couple of his colleagues. Joe Mullins and Michael Luna from DDS will be answering any of the questions that are coming through the Q&A. So feel free to ask away. But Ernie, I will turn it over to you and thank you for your presentation today.
Thanks, Barry. Really appreciate the opportunity to come talk to everybody about some of these really exciting and opportunities for moving the needle on employment. So with the state of California Employment First policy, on October 9th, 2013, Governor Brown signed AB 1041, which established in statute an Employment First policy for the state. The policy made opportunities for integrated competitive employment the highest priority for working age individuals with developmental disabilities, regardless of the severity of their disabilities. Next slide. On this slide, you see some of the system-wide priorities. Access to services that lead to competitive integrated employment. And throughout this presentation, you'll be hearing about competitive integrated employment. I might use the acronym CIE at times, but that's what it means, competitive integrated employment. Other priorities, increasing pathways to employment, and most importantly, improving employment outcomes. Next slide. So some of the initiatives to advance employment over the last 6 years. This slide shows the employment initiatives since the adoption of the Employment First policy. CIE, Competitive Integrated Employment, and paid internship program were established with a tiered payment approach to encourage longer employment. In fiscal year 21-22, there were some changes, and specifically for the paid internship program, one of the big changes was moving from a set dollar amount for that paid internship to a set number of hours. So you can see the different initiatives that have come up over the years with regards to advancing employment. Next slide. Effective July 1st, 21, milestone payments for CIE, Competitive Integrated Employment, were doubled. So what you'll see on the slide is that effective July 1st, the CIE payments increased. They were originally 1,000, 1,250, and 1,500, and they were doubled. So the CIE payments for 30 days of placement are now 2,000, for 6 months, 2,500, and for 12 months, 3,000. And so this is a time-limited increase, but obviously really focusing on increasing those incentives and hopefully leading to more competitive integrated employment opportunities and placements. With regards to competitive integrated employment, thus far, or in fiscal year 21-22, we have data through February of 22. There have been 667 consumers or individuals who achieved an incentive payment milestone. DDS data, typically there's about a 4-month lag, so we'll be running the data again and in October, and we will have the full fiscal year of 21-22. We are hopeful that based on the momentum we saw with CIE in 21-22, that will surpass the figure of fiscal year 2021, which was a total of 1,225. And that momentum hopefully will continue with some of these new initiatives. In fiscal year 21-22, for fiscal year 21-22, we typically send out a paid internship program and CIE survey to the regional centers and providers, which we anticipate sending out in October 22 to collect more information about placements. And this survey is required as part of the Welfare and Institutions Code to measure the effectiveness of the two programs. Next slide. So with regards to the paid internship program, the most recent quarterly update was in June 2022. And again, our POS data, our purchase of service data, it is lagged. So we have data through February of 2022. It showed that 994 individuals were in a paid internship. And that was just through February, compared to fiscal year 2021, where the total was 941. So really showed a significant increase in paid internship, in the paid internship program and individuals participating in that. As I indicated, in October, we'll have the full year 2022. This is a great recovery because we saw a 48.9% decrease in paid internship during 2021 fiscal year compared to the 19-20 fiscal year. But just based on those figures, we're seeing a strong recovery in the paid internship program. As I mentioned before, some significant changes that became effective for the paid internship program as of July 1st, 2021, included adding a paid internship program incentive. So that was new, and you see it here on the slide, where the provider would receive $750 for having someone in a paid internship at least 30 days, and $1,000 for the individual remaining in the paid internship for 60 days. And the other significant change with the paid internship program, as I mentioned earlier, was moving away from a set dollar amount each year for the paid internship program to a total number of hours. With regards to that paid internship program incentive, based on the data that we had through February 2022, 94 individuals achieved an incentive payment milestone, or 94 providers based on the purchase of service data that we have. Next slide. So now some more recent changes with regards to employment grants. So again, in fiscal year 21-22, $10 million were allocated for grants to increase pathways to employment. We put out a request for proposals and identified the following project types as what we were looking for as far as proposals. So business-focused practices, employment preparation, service models for individuals with high support needs, service model transformation, training, and implementation. And that program was developed with consultation of stakeholders. The guidelines were released on June 29th. We had a bidders conference on July 7th. and we had over 300 people attend. The grant applications closed on August 24th. Really impressed with the response we had. We received over 120 grant proposals totaling over $53 million, but we only have 10 million. So we're in the process of scoring those and getting to the point of awarding those grants. So very exciting. With regards to, next slide. Some other important changes in fiscal year 2021 were the Quality Incentive Program employment measures. So these are measures to incentivize employers or providers to increase employment opportunities for individuals served based on their preferences, to increase the provider's capacity for employment, and to focus on employment satisfaction. We're in the process of sending out implementation language on these quality incentive program incentives, and that will those guidance correspondence will be going out to the regional centers shortly. Next slide. So with regards to access to competitive integrated employment, this slide provides a summary of the CIE incentive payments that a provider can claim for consumers meeting the different milestones, and the new quality incentive payments that are available if certain criteria are met. I would, as you know, we talked about the incentives earlier, but some of the new incentives are really focused on individuals who are exiting paid internship and sub-minimum wage. So that's a real focus with regards to these incentives. Next slide. So the placement measure, CIE placement capacity, this one really focuses on providers and increasing their training and skills by providing an incentive to have staff certified or recertified in ACRE training or certified employment support professional training. So really focusing on provider capacity with regards to this quality improvement or quality incentive for the providers. Next slide. And this year, we're working on a 3-year pilot, and we will be having an employment work group meeting within the next month to start getting ideas on this new model for a 3-year pilot. It's under SB 188, and the funding is to establish a service model pilot program focused on expanding career preparedness for individuals with intellectual and developmental disabilities who are currently served through work activity programs or at recent high school graduates. So we'll be meeting with our work group to start getting ideas towards developing this pilot. And next slide. So as hopefully you'll see, you've seen in the previous slides, the ongoing commitment to initiatives and to new ideas for really developing employment is ongoing, and the department VDS is committed to the ongoing engagement and collaboration to lead to successful employment outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ernie. We really appreciate you sharing all of these updates, and that DDS continues their commitment to employment for everyone in the IDD community. Thank you again for being here today. It is now my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Debbie Ball, the Vice President of Employment Services for Easterseal, Southern California, who will be furthering our education on growing paid internships into employment opportunities. Next slide. And with her today behind the scenes is Maureen Carasetti, Director of Employment Services, who will be answering your questions in the Q&A. Thank you again for being here, Debbie.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Next slide. I wanted to share a little bit of information about the paid internship program. I know that Ernie already touched on it, so I'm not going to go into depth, but I just want to make sure that people understand what we're talking about. It is a short-term program designed by the state to, and you'll see the codes up here if you want to, those are live links if you want to click on those. But so we call it a PIP. It is a paid internship program. Next slide. And the PIP's goal is to really increase the number of Californians in competitive integrated employment, right? So whether it's to, next slide, whether it's to help someone get, whoa, I'm sorry, I just messed up. Okay, so competitive integrated employment, that's where I'm going to stop for a second. So competitive integrated employment is full or part-time work. It is with the same exact payment structures as people without disabilities. So it's the same pay, the same wages, same working conditions, same benefits, same opportunities for advancement, right? So same of everything. So the PIP's goal is to increase the number of Californians in competitive integrated employment. Next slide. Sorry about that. So again, as I said, it's the same wage, same benefits, same opportunities. And this definition, again, this is a live link if you want to look it up. There's a lot more information behind it. I was just trying to keep things simple. It's just about, you know, real pay for real work. We want to make it real. We want to make sure that it's real always, and that people are being paid for the valued work that they're doing. Next slide. So the PIP, the employer is paid by the state to reimburse the employee. So rather than the employee being the direct employee of the business is paid by the state while that employee or the intern is in their PIP program learning to do the job or learning new skills that will help them advance their career. Right. So the employer is paid directly by the state, well, through a fiscal intermediary. PIPs must be approved in advance by the different regional centers. There's, of course, processes that you need to go through that talk about the type of jobs that will be acceptable for a paid internship program, the amount of hours on a job, the types of skills that will be used, if it's consistent with their IPP goals. So all of those things are kind of verified in advance before a paid internship program ever starts. The regional center also reviews the budget to determine that the person's making, you know, appropriate goals and choices based on their IPP, and that they have the money in the budget to go ahead and pay them for their full-time or for their full work at the paid internship program. So it pays not only wages, but also all of the payroll taxes and everything. So it is really a full paid position. It's really important for me and for most people that I know that specific goals are set for the intern and the business, so that they're laid out well in advance, so that everybody knows what to expect from this paid internship, right? It's not just another space that's being filled, or it's not just a warm body. It's really a goal and the advancement of personal goals toward a career path. So we want to make sure that everybody has it in mind from the very beginning, that there are specific goals that we're working on and that are expected to be attained. And then it's really important too that training and feeding both begin on the very first day. So when someone first starts their job, you know, of course, none of us know everything that has to go on with the job the very first day that we start. So it's really important that we want to embrace that individual and make sure that they're a part of their coworkers team, and then they know who they can go to with questions or if they have concerns on the job. But then at the same time, we want to make sure that we as providers are moving back out of the way, so that we aren't creating odd streams or where people have to talk to us instead of talking to the new intern, right? We really want that intern to be able to build those bridges for themselves and to make those connections with their coworkers, so that they don't need a paid support. They're helping them with their job. Right. And that's one of the things that is the beauty in the paid internship program, is it does help to build those. Next slide, please. So the goals for participating in PIPs, and I think I started to mention this earlier, you want to gain experience and skills for future paid employment, right? So it may be down a career path and you're hoping to get some mentorship and guidance that'll help you in your next move down that career path. Or it could be for that particular internship to learn to move into a paid job at that employer. So it could be, for example, an employer who, is going to need the help in the future and has the time to train you up before the work really begins, the really heavy lifting begins, and it's just perfect timing. Or it could be maybe, there are some skills that you need to work on that can be worked on during that PIP period, so that when that open position does come up, you're right there and you're ready and you have those skills. I have a couple stories that I want to share with you. The very first one is a video. So I'm going to ask that it be shown right now. Next slide.
Everyone has a skill, everyone has an ability, whether it's obvious or not. You can always find the right place and the right business for that person. I am a vocational specialist at Easter Seals, so I work with their customized employment service line, and I help people that have different disabilities, and I help them connect with businesses that they're gonna actually improve or be an asset to.
I first met Cody when I had my job interview here, so he was already working here. At first he came in and he was like an intern, so he was just learning for a few months. And then he actually got really good at it and he got hired part-time.
I like working here because everybody is nice and they're really helpful.
Every day Cody comes in and he works together with Mike to build bicycles, because when we get bicycles in the store, they come in a box. He'll have a list with bicycles that have to be built, and then he starts putting together all the cables and the screws, and then they have to come on the floor and put the bikes in different places, kind of organize the floor.
Cody's been very helpful here. He builds 8 bikes a week for this shop, and they sell about 8 bikes a week, so he's really creating that opportunity for more revenue in this shop.
Cody adds a lot of value to the bike shop. I think every time he walks into work, all of us just get happy. He's very positive, so I would recommend to other businesses to think outside the box, because you could teach a lot of people and help them grow, and you could see how they can improve and become valuable and actually help you inside your company.
Thank you. So that was Cody, and yes, he loves being at the bike shop. He was an individual who really had mechanical skills already, liked to putter, had a family that was quite mechanical and always took care of things, and he liked bikes. And so our vocational specialist started looking for small businesses in his area that would be interested in really helping to mentor him and see if there was some a pathway forward for him. And there certainly was. He just really took to it, and he's really engaged in it. He's just one of the staff there, and it's made a world of difference in his life. So that's one success story of going in with a PIP, a paid internship program that worked really well into a paid employment position that really fits his ideal conditions of employment. And then there's Max. I wanted to share Max's story with you. Max is a guy who's really good on the computer. He loves all kinds of video, graphic design, animation. He's actually more comfortable probably behind a keyboard than he is face to face. But he's just got really good skills. He also happens to be a musician and even a singer-songwriter. And he's just really smart. He has incredible knowledge for things that he's learned. It's just a fantastic memory. But then he also has this amazing recall of historic events or old data that he just can pull up. And so we were working with Max to find out, what his career path might look like. He is going to college part-time. He is pursuing musical theory and some other music choices in there, along with his graphic design. And we started looking at perhaps doing a paid internship program. He is on social media. He loves doing media posts. And again, he loves music. So we put those things together and we came up with a paid internship program at Spec Labs, where he is their social media coordinator. So he started out very specifically on Instagram, but he's making posts for social media that are promoting the artists that are recorded by Spec Labs. So he gets to interact with artists, he gets to interview the artists, he writes up stories, he writes up blurbs, exciting taglines, posts them, and streams live, and he's just doing a fantastic job. He's really, it's really interesting to see him because he's really come into his own in this position, and he's really taking such ownership from it that I can see where he really might have a future in it. And we weren't sure when we got the paid internship program if it was going to be something that he was really interested in doing, on a constant paid type basis, or if it was more of a hobby. But this really seems to be like something that he wants to stick to. So. And it's great because, again, he's with the musicians, he's with the artists, he's just one of the guys, and he's doing things that he loves. So hopefully in a couple months, I'll be telling you that that's another success story where Max has moved into permanent employment there. But if not, I'm sure that he is already in the taking the right steps toward building his career plans and whatever comes next for him. So just a couple more notes on PIPs before I turn it over to the next speaker. If you would, next slide, please. So I think it's really important to note that paid internship programs are a small part of what we do. Paid internships should not be used as free labor for employers, and they don't replace traditional jobs for the job seeker. Right? They're a really good tool when they're used really well, which is, to gain those skills to get into a career path or onto a career path, or to get in that door with that employer and show them that you can do the work and become a vital team member. But they should never take over a real job, a real paid employment. So I just always want to caution that. Sometimes people go, oh, internships, they're so much easier to get. And then all of a sudden everybody's in an internship, whether it fits them or not. So since 2020, we've worked with we at Easter Seals have worked with 151 job seekers in customized employment, and we've had 14 PIPs. So that's a usage rate of 9% for us. Okay. And then another thing that's interesting that I wanted to share as well is the length of the internship. Some people think that they should be, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, things like that. Ours have been short and ours have been successful. We had one person at 2 months, 2 people at 2.5 months, 1 person at 6 months, and 2 people at 12 months. So our longest internships were 12 months. Of the 14 PIPs that we had, 6 of the interns were hired by their employer, right? And 5 are still in their paid internship positions. And only 3 of those 14 didn't work out. And those were primarily because they found out that they really weren't interested in that type of job after all, which is a good thing to know before you move into it as a career. So I'm a fan of the paid internship program. I really am. It may not sound like it. I just, with everything, I think that we should use caution and we should, do it in moderation. It doesn't fit for everyone. Not everyone needs it, but it can be a great stepping stone for those when the right opportunity arrives. And that is it.
Thank you so much, Debbie. Really appreciate your framing on the paid internship program. Loved hearing about Cody's and Max's stories as well. So thank you for sharing all the great work you're doing at Easter Seals. We're going to transition now to our next presenter. And we are just honored to be joined today by Carol Watillo, the Executive Director at Progressive Employment Concepts, who is going to talk about their approach to employment strategies for people with high support needs. Next slide, please. And Carol is joined today by her colleague, Amanda Palacio, who will be handling any questions that come in on the Q&A. So Carol and Amanda, thank you for being here today. And Carol, the floor is yours.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you, Barry, for the introduction. Sad I have to follow Debbie. That's never easy. But thank you, Debbie, for all the great information on the use of the paid internship. Amanda and I are here from Progressive Employment, and we're happy to be here with such great employment champions. So employment's about more than a rule or a requirement or employment first policies, all of which are great and necessary. but employment's about social justice. And it's the key to all of the other things in our lives, like friends and community and where we live and if we have money to play, right? Next slide, please. At our agency, we believe to do this work, we must be rooted in a strong mission and values. This mission guides the decisions we make every day in the work that we do. So at Progressive, our mission in collaboration with the people we serve is to develop and discover opportunities that promote dignity, respect, inclusion, and meaningful contribution, so all of our lives and communities are enriched. Next slide, please. And our core values: opportunity, inclusion, choice, contribution, respect, relationships, and innovation are infused in everything from our hiring and our training to our service options. Next slide, please. When we started back in 1995, we served 15 people. We've always been 100% community-based. We didn't have a site or a facility, no starting at or going back to. However, we did have a van, big blue van, it was horrible, that picked up groups of people and dropped them off to community locations to their support staff. We usually supported people in groups of 3. We've always focused on employment, but in the early years, that more often meant 2 people at one job site at the same time with a support person. We supported people in volunteering and in school, and over the years in microenterprise as well. We've always had a zero exclusion philosophy, which means we support anyone who wants our services, regardless of the level of support they need or the challenges that that presents. Next slide, please. Currently, we serve around 120 people, even more community-based because we got rid of the big old van and the groups of people, opting instead for staff using their personal vehicles as needed or naturally occurring transportation in the community. Our employment supports are rooted in discovery and customized employment, driven by the fact that we believe all people have a right and a responsibility to be contributing members in their community. We needed tools that allowed us to support people with complex needs. We're a person-centered organization, and all employment is individual employment. We've added self-determination supports to the list of services we offer now because we value people having direct control over their lives. Next slide, please. So they asked me to talk about employment strategies for supporting people with high support needs or multiple barriers to employment. And you may be thinking, well, I haven't told you those magic tools yet. But yet, I believe I have. If you believe all people can work, you set up your organization to be driven by the needs of the person, you utilize best practice, research-based approaches such as discovery and customized employment, you presume competence, you support people in finding valued social roles and building social capital, and you accept nothing less than full inclusion. That's how you support all people to work. In the many years I've been in this field, I think we tend to overcomplicate things and look to specialized programs or getting ready models with all their steps or special assessments that more often than not weed people out and not in. I was recently watching a Mark Gold video. Yes, I do that for fun. The other day, in which he told the audience the single most important thing that they could do as teachers was believe that the people they were teaching could learn. So what if we just believe all people can work and we go about doing everything in our power to make it so? Next slide, please. Everything in your organization must be designed to meet the needs of the individual people you support and the employers that you connect with. We don't ask the question whether this person or that person can work or are they appropriate for our services. They can, and they are. Zero exclusion means full inclusion. We don't have 9-to-2 schedules. We work when we need it, when we are needed. If that's nights, if that's weekends, if that's odd shifts, that's what we do. if personal assistance and transportation is needed, as well as systematic instruction and employer consultation. That's what we do. It's about getting people jobs. It's about people being valued and included. No two staff, we call them community development specialists, or individual schedule in our agency are the same. Each schedule is designed around the needs of the people that staff supports. We use tested and validated strategies such as systematic instruction. Thank you, Mark Gold. We try another way. And discovery and customized employment. All our staff are trained in our values and mission, along with person-centered thinking, systematic instruction, discovery, and customized employment. And I'll share how this might look for someone we support by briefly sharing Dom's story. Dom gives me permission to share his story. So when Dom was referred, this is what I heard about him. He's a guy who uses a wheelchair. He doesn't communicate verbally. He has a lot of involuntary movement, but not a lot of voluntary movement. He needs full physical assistance with, well, everything. In going through the process of discovery, what we learned about Dominic, in addition to those things, and beyond the fact that he's a great guy who has a big network of connections, is he has a very strong view of right and wrong. He loves law enforcement. He's detail-oriented. He can pick up on small details or things out of place. And it's very important to him to give back in his community. Following these themes led him to criminal justice classes at the community college, which led him to the Criminal Justice Club, which led him to an event with local police department personnel, which led him to volunteering for the police department, which led to a grant to pay Dom to share diversity hiring practices with employers in his area. So in addition to the diversity employment presentations that Dom does, he also does mall security, writes tickets when people are parked in accessible spots without a placard, a personal pet peeve of his, and does code enforcement checks in the local neighborhoods. It would be easy to look at Dom or any other person we support and see what they can't do. Discovery makes us look at what people can do. None of this is easy. It would be far easier to have set schedules, to be able to weed out people who have more complex support needs, to not use personal vehicles. All of those things make things more difficult. But we believe it's our responsibility to walk with people and figure it out. So we struggle and we fail and we succeed and we learn every day along the way. Next slide, please. Because work's fundamental, right? Work is about more than a paycheck. It's purpose and self-direction and connection and opportunity and self-respect and all of these small intangibles that unless you were somebody who was never offered those opportunities, you don't even understand. But it's also about a paycheck. Social Security is great and it's necessary, but Social Security alone is poverty. And the people that we support and that depend on us doing better deserve better from us. Next slide, please. So our role has changed. It's about building bridges that lead to employment, not about deciding who is or who isn't ready. Everybody is ready. We just need to go and do it. Thank you for your time today. I know they have all our contact information. We're always happy to talk more about employment because I know this was very brief. So thank you and feel free to reach out if you have questions.
Thank you so much, Carol. I really enjoyed your presentation and truly believe as you do that if we believe everyone can work, we can find a way And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce from Meristem's Transformative Autism Program, presenting on creating innovative partnerships with employers. We have the director, Eric Stewart, and coordinator, Harrison Lane, to present with us all here today. Next slide. And we are lucky to have behind the scenes answering any and all of your questions, Shannon Shields. So thank you all for being here today, and take it away.
Thank you for having us. I'm Harry Lane, and next to me is Eric. So we are opening doors and breaking down barriers to employment for young adults with autism. So we are Transformative Autism Program, TAP, and you can join the movement. You can take your phone's camera and point it at the QR code, and that'll direct you to a link to our website, tapautism.org. You can fill out the form there, and we will get back to you. But we are based out of Meristem, which is a transitional school in Sacramento County. It's a transitional school for young adults with autism and neurodiversity. Fluent with Meristem, we have created our program via a grant in the state legislature. It's called the Breaking Barriers Program. I'm sure many of you have heard about it. Back in 2017 and 2018. This grant dealt with many different situations, including people in prisons, domestic abuse, and mental health, as well as autism. And when this grant passed in the state legislature, the state of California asked Meristem if we would focus on autism. How do you get somebody with autism employed, and how do you get a company to work with them? And so at Meristem, with 12 Meristem students, we created this program. Initially, it was a 105-page manual and video modules on our website, the modules, best practices for hiring and retaining individuals with autism. Next slide, please. And so I just want to point out briefly this statistic that every year, 50,000 students with autism graduate from high school. Most of these young people remain unemployed or are in part-time minimum wage jobs well into their 20s. And so with our program, we focus on anybody at any age, but specifically also narrowing in on young individuals in their 20s and those that are in that transition period where they're leaving home and going out into the world, and the mothers and fathers are worried about what are they going to do next, and they need a job for that. So now Eric will talk more about our modules and our training. Next slide, please.
So yeah, hi everybody. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Harry. I just want to jump on what Carol said right at the end of her presentation. I feel like this program that we've had the privilege of developing, the Transformative Autism Program, is a bridge builder. We hear more and more from our partners throughout the state of California, and that's probably a lot of people on this call right now fit the partnership kind of definition. But we hear more and more that employers want to do this. Employers want to be more inclusive and bring more and more folks in that are neurodiverse, IDD, but they don't know what to do. They don't feel adequately prepared to do it. And this is what the Transformative Autism training is all about. I know it has autism in the title, but I can save you the question and answer on that. We're finding that anybody who needs additional support in the workforce, an employer that goes through our training gets a much better idea how to do that. We have 5 particular areas that we focus on. We know that employers, like you said, we're hearing it more and more, want to feel prepared as a company. And this is from the smallest mom and pop folks all the way up to biggest companies. We have worked with the whole gamut so far, and we're just working with more and more. And we're seeing that this idea of being prepared goes across all vocational types, sizes of companies. The next thing that we target is the hiring process. A lot of you know that for some of the folks that we work with, we kind of leapfrog the hiring process, right? We come in and we're supporting and we're job developers and we get it done. And that's fine. We need to do what we do, but there's also a whole part of what we're trying to do is essentially get us all to not need to be here anymore, which would mean employers are genuinely ready to do the work internally that it takes to be super inclusive. And our hiring part really focuses on what they can do to better recruit folks, bring them through the application process, interview process. The next thing would be the onboarding. We know that if you can get folks onboarded correct, and this is not just for folks with IDD and neurodiversity. We know employers are dying all the time because they're like, we don't have enough resources for good onboarding, and every employee that we hire says nobody trained me. We just really share with our employers that if you miss the boat on this with folks that you're bringing in, specifically knowing that they might need more support, if you miss the boat, you can pretty much be assured that it's not going to work out. And we say, set up a system where you're not going to miss the boat on that. It's that critical. And then retention practices. And finally, would be taking a look at what you're doing as a company after a year or so and saying, what can I do to make it even better? Next slide, please. All right. So our idea, this also kind of came up. I think Carol said this. This is not easy. What we are doing for the folks that we're trying to help throughout the state of California is not easy. But overwhelmingly, it's a simple process. It's just the willingness of all of us. And when I say all of us, again, it gets back to there's so many people involved in one single successful job placement, right? So those partnerships are critical. And so you've got service providers all over the state of California that are doing critical work to get somebody ready, to introduce them to an employer, to provide that initial support on the front end and maybe that ongoing support. And what we know is we've got to work together as a community. These are the partnerships that are so critical. TAP can open the door, right? So the Transformative Autism Program gets an employer that's traditionally hesitant, and we go through the training with them and they say, we're ready to rock and roll. We know at that point, we need our partners throughout the state of California, which are the providers and the regional centers, to say, hey, we've got a group of individuals that are ready to go. They fit the job description, they fit the shifts, they fit the geographic location. Let's go ahead and move to the next slide. All right, so Harry mentioned quickly or initially that we got going with the Transformative Autism Program back in 2017, 2018. We had a very limited deliverable that we needed to pull off. Harry, along with quite a few other students here at Meristem, did an amazing job getting the program built, and we got it out to employers throughout Sac County and LA County. But in 2022, at the beginning of this year, more funding was made available if we were willing to do more work. And that more work is covering all of California, getting the state public sector more involved. And then the biggest deal, everybody, is to prove that when an employer takes the training, there's a direct connection between taking that training and hiring somebody. And again, that's why partnerships are so critical. Harry?
Thank you. And so we deal with county, city, and state in terms of who we work with. You'll see there on public sector employment opportunities. So we worked with many people from regional transit center, you know, the trains, the light rails, and the buses, parks and recs departments. And then for the state of California, we worked with the California Department of Social Services and the California Conservation Corps. We have a relationship there. What we're doing is we're helping to build a job seeker database, a pipeline of job seekers that help job seekers get employment. Because one thing is for certain, when somebody works with a DOR, Department of Rehab, or regional center, there's still that lack of training on the employer. So we go in and we help to, you know, just make it facilitate it and make it smooth. Next slide, please. And then we have well, Eric will take this. Also, PIP funding. the paid internship funding is 1,040 hours. I'll just mention that again. But the thing to note there is it's not 100% we should use it all the time. But when we do mention it and we do bring up that there is state money, we're 100% state funded program, employers sort of relax a little bit and it helps to calm them down. Eric?
Well, and I just wanted to show you guys, like, our list of folks that we're working with is too long to throw on this slideshow, but we just wanted to give you a sense of some of the great regional centers that are working with us and service providers and our state partners. And it's just growing. This is the most exciting thing ever for us. And each relationship that we build, and again, I don't even know if we've made it clear, like we're just kind of like a supplement. The service providers are doing the real work. And so we believe that we've got the ability to knock on the door of an employer and to get them to say, hey, I really feel comfortable doing this, hopefully all the way to the extent that Carol was sharing earlier. And then we can say, okay, well, we've got some folks for you to work with. And then we just kind of hand it off. Next slide, please. So this is just a cool little, we're actually done. We need to stop, but this is really cool. You guys are going to see more about this in a minute. If you can go to the next slide. A good friend of ours, Donna Feingold, I'm pretty sure she's on the call today, but she represents to me somebody or her organization that brings us all together in a very concerted effort. And when I say all, we're talking employers and providers and state agencies. She's phenomenal. Love working with her and appreciate her mentorship. Next slide, please.
We're done. But basically, I'm just going to very quickly mention that we work with many partners. One partner is a Bayshire Senior Communities down in San Diego, where they've taken our training and they are actively hiring people in health. It's a healthcare facility. They're part of the California Association of Health Facilities, actively hiring in the laundry department and also in the kitchen. So if you know anybody in the San Diego area, they're actively hiring neurodiverse individuals. And these are our other partners that we've worked with. Thank you so much. Next slide. And that's good. Yes. Oh, I guess we have to. So as Eric mentioned previously, we worked with this young gentleman, Simon Lash, who actually got a job at Humboldt. It's a restaurant in Berkeley. The gentleman, Eric, who runs the restaurant, has a devotion to autism. His little son is has autism. So we work directly with Simon, and grateful to the Mildred Consulting Group for interviewing Simon. And they're going to play his interview now.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm great. It's really nice to see you.
You
I know
too.
Harry's happy to see you as well.
Hi, Harry.
Hello, Simon. Thanks for joining us.
No problem.
So Simon, this effort that we're doing, we're trying to share with a lot of folks around California about the work that providers do to help people like Simon get jobs, how important it is for employers to be open to bringing people on that are neurodiverse. Why don't you tell us, when we first met, what was your situation? You were in a particular job and you didn't really like doing it. What was going on?
Yeah, the job, I was like, I think it was like a little bit like, not as enjoyable as I would say it.
And so what kind of job did you want though? What was going to make you happier?
Being in like a food industry, like a restaurant, or like doing something that I love, like cooking.
But I remember you telling me that you really wanted to interact with people.
Yeah, I still do. Yes, that was correct.
I remember you telling me specifically, like, I want to be able to greet customers and smile and interact.
Well, yeah, that's what I wanted.
And so we started meeting every week. Who were the meetings with?
My parents and you guys.
And we even tried to get, and there were some times where we got your service coordinator involved.
Yeah.
Right. And we also had your counselor from the Department of Rehab involved.
You are correct.
Yeah. And so we had quite the network of people working together. And every Monday, and we were job searching together, talking about things. And then your dad did something really important. What is it that your dad did to help open up the door?
He spoke to one of his, I think, restaurant friends and just have him open up to a bunch of companies that may want me.
Right. And who did we hear from that we ended up really being delighted that we heard from?
Eric Wright from Humboldt.
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about Eric Wright, now that you know him. What kind of person is he?
He's a fun and, I think, energetic guy.
Well, there's more to it than that, though, right? Because that first day when we went and we all met at his restaurant for your interview, and you went walking through the door, how did you feel walking through the door? Like
extremely nervous.
And what did Eric do to kind of help you just calm down and get more comfortable?
Talk to me and sat down, and I had a drink.
Yeah, he offered you a beverage, and to me, I remember watching you drink that beverage. It looked like the best beverage I've ever seen anybody drink.
Yeah. And
So
especially
anyway,
with ice. I needed the ice.
yeah. And we sat down and we just talked for a while, right?
Right, like a couple minutes, yeah.
Yeah. And then Eric kind of told you what he would like to do with you for your working interview. He wanted to give you an opportunity for you to actually show him
Right, yeah.
what you were able to do instead of having to sit there and try to answer a bunch of questions.
Yeah, demonstrate.
Yeah. So why don't you share with us what were some of the things that you demonstrated for him?
Being cashier, sometimes cooking and doing the dishes.
Well,
and greeting customers.
And greeting the customer. So what part made you feel best about that interview?
Probably being the cashier and greeting the customers.
Why? Why was that? Why did that make you feel so good?
Because I was actually talking to people and actually doing something that's like something with technology.
Okay. Yeah, that's a pretty cool combination.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that working interview, that was like a 3-hour working interview. Did he offer you the job or not?
Yes, he did.
He did. How did that feel?
Wonderful.
Okay. And now why don't you tell us about the next few weeks after that?
I'll be more specific with that question.
Well, you ended up working for him for 3 or 4 weeks after that interview.
Right, yeah, like 3 more weeks, yeah.
And how did those shifts go?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Were you doing anything? Were you getting better and better at certain things? Is there
Better at
something?
the cashier. I started actually doing the cashier and Grubhub and DoorDash people like without help.
Right. And there was specific things that he was teaching you to say to the customers.
Right. Yeah.
That you got really good at. What were some of those things that he needed you to make sure that you always said to a customer?
Please and thank you, and like, you know, telling them the price and then saying please. Yeah, ask them if they want water or something or ice.
Yeah. I mean, those things sound really simple, but if you're running a restaurant and you need an employee to do certain things, we told them through our training, you know, make sure that the people that you want to hire are teachable. And he did some of that stuff with you in the interview, and you kept proving it each time you went there because you would update us every week. Do you remember giving us updates?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember if I did or not.
That's all right, man. So you loved the job, but something happened. You ended up making a really hard decision after a couple weeks. What was that?
That I had to work there because it was more than just 1 shift a week.
Okay. And do you remember why we were only at 1 shift a week with Eric?
Because of the funding problem.
Yeah, and so it wasn't necessarily a funding problem. It was getting the funding in place problem.
In place, yeah, right, for more shifts.
And so you sat with your family and you guys, you did some really hard decision making, and you decided that it would be best for you to go back to district.
Yeah.
How was that? How did you feel when you communicated that to Eric?
Hard.
It was really hard for you to do. I remember being really proud of you, though. It was a good email. And so you thanked him. Eric said that he really appreciated you and he would keep the door open, and then off you went. But then just a couple days ago, an email popped up in my email inbox from Simon.
I'm sorry.
Directed to Eric. What was that email? What was your email to Eric all about?
Saying that I actually wanted to go back to Humble and saying that it was more fun and enjoyable.
That is pretty much what it said. And it took about a day for Eric to write back. But when he wrote back, what did Eric say?
You want me to read the whole email or summarize it?
Yeah, I think you can go ahead and read it.
All right, let me pop it up. Let me go back to my email. Give me a second to give that email.
Yeah.
All right, here's what Eric Wright from Humble said. Hi, Simon. So great to hear from you. I'm adding my business partner, Sam, onto this email. We would love to have you back at Humble. We are unfortunately in a similar financial situation as before and can only afford so many hours, likely the 3 on Fridays that you were doing before. However, I think Eric Stewart, you, and Harry can get started on getting the paid internship program started right away through the regional center. I'm sure you have a few things to discuss with your parents. Hopefully, by that point, we'll have some funding come through and be able to get you on more than 1 shift per week. We'll get started right away and hopefully be able to bring you back to Humble within a month or 2. If we can get the internship funding, we'll be able to get you on up to 5 shifts per week. Once you're working, we'll definitely focus on learning more aspects of the position. This would mean we're relying on you, well, me, and reliability is important in the restaurant industry. Looking forward to talking again soon. Thanks, Eric Wright. That's what he said in the email after I sent it.
How in the world did it feel when you read that?
Happy? Like I was saying, thank God he emailed back. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for sharing this story. Thank you, Simon. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Well, a big thank you to everyone from Meristem. I really appreciate you being here and sharing your experiences in the amazing TAP program that you all are part of. If you're interested in these resources or others, we have placed a fact sheet that there is a link to in the chat for more employment resources. These will also be posted on our webinars and in other, if you're following our Disability Thrive social media or website, email blast, the rest of it, we will make sure that you find a way to get access to that fact sheet. In addition, we hope you are all part of our Disability Thrive Initiative community and join us this Friday at noon for the Lunch and Learn. Many of our panelists who are here today will be there. We love the engagement today and all the questions that came in through the Q&A, but you might leave here today with still a few burning questions. So we hope you join us Friday and we will make sure all of those get answered in our live Q&A and conversation. Next slide. Join us October 5th, 3 to 4 p.m. for more to come on tailored day services. This is, I know, a hot topic currently, and you can register now at webinar.disabilitythriveinitiative.org. Next slide.
Yeah, and I just want to remind everyone you can view all our past resources and the resources from this webinar on our resource library at our website, disabilitythriveinitiative.org. You can also sign up for email updates there. Next slide, please. And so finally, just want to close out today by saying thank you. Thank you to DDS and our great presenters from Progressive Employment Concepts, Meristem, and Easter Seals. Want to thank our interpreters, Destiny and Mark, for a great job making this accessible to all. And thank you to the entire team. And most importantly, thank you all for being here with us today. Hopefully you learned some stuff and you continue to engage with us going forward. We are honored to be part of this community and a resource to it. So thank you to everyone. We will see you next time. Really appreciate you being here. Hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you, everyone. And be sure to fill out our follow-up survey. We always are looking on ways to improve. Take care.